Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240. 92.7 FM. Did I say that part already? It's been a long day. It's been a very long day, in large part because of this weather. We are catching some of the blowback from Hurricane Harvey. We're seeing it at the gas pumps. We're seeing it in the windiness that we're experiencing, in this rain that we're experiencing. So as always, anytime the roads are wet, I do this every show. Stay safe out there. Seriously, drive safely. Don't try and force anything that doesn't make any sense, because I like you people being alive. That's generally how I like my Chattanoogans. Home safely. How about that? So drive safely. Drive like you got some sense. If everybody drives like they got some sense, we'll all make it home okay. So before I really get into the college football stuff, because today is the college football preview, because today is college football coming back. It's back. It's like Christmas morning. It's like Christmas morning all over again. And then the NFL is going to come back next week, and then it'll be Christmas morning again. This is the thing that I love the most about being a sports fan, is when a season's about to start, it's Christmas. It's Christmas every single time. Like most people, and maybe this is why I'm not as big a proponent of the holidays as other folks, because most people celebrate Christmas once a year, right? And that's fair, and that's fine, and that's normal. And so they get all jazzed up and excited about having to travel everywhere for Christmas. Nah, man. Not me. I watch every sport, so I celebrate Christmas many times a year. I celebrate Christmas before college football comes back. I celebrate Christmas before the NFL comes back. I celebrate Christmas before the NBA and college basketball, and before March Madness, and before the Masters. I celebrate Christmas many times a year. Right before the World Series, the day before the Super Bowl, multiple times a year. Wimbledon is also my Christmas. Wimbledon is more of my Kwanzaa. But the point is, I celebrate Christmas many times a year. I'm very excited today. So we're going to get to the college football preview. We've also got another set of stories to get to. Carolyn Wozniacki is not buying the Maria Sharapova comeback tour. Serena Williams has a baby. Her sister Venus Williams wins a lot of tennis tournament matches, just like a lot. We're going to talk about the Venus greatness conversation, because we don't have it as much because she tends to be overshadowed by her sister. We missing anything else? No, we're not really missing anything else. So we'll start with the story that I truly want to start with, because I did give him a very hard time, which is that Mr. Ezekiel Elliott has been suspended 6 games by the NFL, right? And this is one of those things where you aren't sure, right? Like, I felt like the NFL should absolutely have suspended him the amount of games that they suspended him, given that Ezekiel Elliott has a history of reckless behavior outside of even this case. The NFL gets to take all of that stuff into account, where in a court of law, you wouldn't be able to. And the NFL also has the ability to investigate things at a very deep level. They can take as long as they want. They're not confined by the same rules that the government is confined to when it comes to handing down suspension. So if they believe that Ezekiel Elliott was in fact involved in this domestic abuse case, and that he did in fact hit his then girlfriend, if they determine that, they have the right to suspend him, and that's fine. But they do need to do the investigation properly. Them especially, right? The NFL specifically needs to do this kind of investigation properly, because they don't have a good track record of doing investigations properly. They don't have a good track record with the whole Deflategate thing. They don't have a good track record with Bountygate. They don't have a good track record with the investigations of a number of individual players, including the Peyton Manning investigation, in which it seems like they pulled up short on that investigation so as not to truly penalize Peyton Manning near the end of his career. They also pulled up short on investigating James Harrison as well. They stopped short on a lot of people. They've gone too far on many others. And so when you look at the track record of the NFL investigating, it makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And part of this, though, is that the players have given the NFL the power to hand down whatever it is that they want, right? When the NFL gives you something that you also have to arbitrate with the NFL, the players gave the NFL this power. Now, on one hand, it is easy to make fun of the players, right? To talk about how short-sighted the players were. That the players did give up all of this power. The Players Association did. The Union of NFL Players, the NFLPA, gave up all of this power in exchange for a little bit more money. And so when you look at them and you look at how it is that they have gotten themselves into this mess, it's easy to go, well, if you didn't want them to have all that power, you shouldn't have given it to them. And I think that that's a little careless to say, right? Because I think that the players didn't mind Roger Goodell having the power. I think that the players did not realize, nor did they understand the extent to which that power would actually be abused and how incompetent the NFL would actually be at coming through on many of these investigations. And now here they are with Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that I think, honestly, they have dead to rights when it comes to suspending the guy, right? Especially since he's going to come in, he's going to want that penalty knocked down. They're going to have to arbitrate it and hand it down. But it looks like the NFL wanted to dig their heels in. They didn't want to give Ezekiel Elliott any ground on this whatsoever. And I'm not necessarily certain that didn't completely backfire here on the NFL. That stance, combined with the fact that their investigation was completely incompetent. You see, the things that we're learning about the investigation are this: that you've had people inside the investigation telling the NFL that they did not have sufficient evidence to suspend Ezekiel Elliott for 6 games, that they did not have sufficient evidence, despite what it is that the NFL released in their press statement, that the NFL has been investigating this for the greater part of a year, and they had released in their statement that they had significant evidence to prove that Ezekiel Elliott was in fact involved in this case. But when you look at the report that the NFL released, and I read a summary of the report because, come on, man, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have time to sit down and read the whole report. But when you read the report, what it says and what it paints is a different story, which is that you do get all the interviews from all the people, but you're not getting sufficient evidence of anything, right? And what it would appear is that the NFL is doing the thing with Ezekiel Elliott that they did with Tom Brady that absolutely nobody liked, which is that they appear to be punishing Ezekiel Elliott for not cooperating with the investigation, not for being found guilty in the investigation, which ought to be the chief reason why he is suspended, right? That Ezekiel Elliott, and he's not completely relieved of blame here, but Ezekiel Elliott is giving them answers that don't help them in any way in this investigation, right? Like they asked Ezekiel Elliott about the bruises on, I believe her name is Tiffany Thompson, his ex-girlfriend, who he allegedly had the domestic altercation with. They asked Ezekiel Elliott where the bruises came from, and Ezekiel Elliott was answering the questions very vaguely, in a way that's not helpful to anybody, and also in a way that would suggest guilt, but isn't actually proof of guilt. Right? Ezekiel Elliott said some things along the lines of, well, she had bruises on her. You know, maybe she just fell down and stuff. I'm trying to find the exact quote because I don't want to paraphrase this. But here's the question in the report, right? Here's the question. Can you tell us now? So now you are telling us that you did see some bruises, cuts, and injuries of that nature on Tiffany's body that week. Can you tell us when did you first notice that Tiffany had these kind of injuries on her body that week? At which point Ezekiel Elliott responds, I can't really tell you. I mean, every time we go out, she may fall. Something may happen. She would get bruises. She always had bruises. So it wasn't like I was every day looking, surveying her body to see what bruises she had. She always had bruises, which sounds bad, right? There's a terrible answer. There's no way, by the way, to exonerate Ezekiel Elliott of anything who hasn't been proven guilty or not guilty in a court of law or in the NFL's investigation, right? Like the fact that they had to say that you have insufficient evidence for this. Okay, so there's no proof either way. I'm just saying, as a response, for me, that is a red flag of guilt. That is an overwhelmingly enormous, gigantic red flag of guilt. And I'm not saying that means he's guilty. I'm saying it looks bad. Okay, so then the interviewer then asks him, you said she would always fall down. Was there any time that week while she was with you that she fell down? And he answers, I'm not sure, right? So he's just being unnecessarily vague in his answers. But again, I understand why. Part of it is the desire, the strong desire to not incriminate yourself. So you are very vague and non-specific in your answers, especially since Ezekiel Elliott will have to go to court over this. Telling this to NFL investigators is not particularly helpful in his case, right? So I understand why that's some information that Ezekiel Elliott might want to withhold. It's just the way that he answered it looks particularly bad. And that's not a reason to suspend a guy. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM, just talking about the NFL's investigation of Ezekiel Elliott before we roll into the college football week 1 preview. I just want to talk about this because they botched this investigation, and I'm looking at the NFL and I'm going, how is it that you've botched another one? How many of these things are you not going to do correctly? Not like you have the power to investigate in any way that you want, right? The Players Association has foolishly, in the eyes of many, given that power to you to investigate however you want, to suspend however you want. How are you botching these investigations? You have more access than anybody. The NFL is still screwing up these investigations, and they possibly have screwed up this one too. And Ezekiel Elliott is suing the NFL, by the way, over a conspiracy to withhold substantial evidence that he feels would exonerate him, which is the other part of this. I feel like the NFL believes it can get away with twisting the facts to fit the narrative that they want. And I'm not saying that it makes Ezekiel Elliott innocent. And I'm also not saying that the NFL needs Ezekiel Elliott to actually be innocent. But the NFL does need to know that at some point, it's going to be time to pay the piper. We're going to need to see these reports. We're going to need to see these investigations. We're going to need to see these interviews. And when you show that stuff to us, there better be something there. The credibility of the NFL, as far as an investigating body goes, there is none. There is no credibility. It's funny to me because when you look at the way that law enforcement holds the FBI, the one thing that they say about the FBI is that the FBI is like not a great tactical unit. They're fantastic investigators. They're not a great tactical unit. Like the credibility of the FBI as a tactical unit. And I may be offending many FBI folks. I'm just saying what I have heard. And I'm not stating this is an actual fact. I am not an insider of any particular kind. I'm just saying what I have heard. FBI, fantastic investigating body, maybe save the tactical stuff to those other individuals. Well, you look at the NFL is a great sports entertainment body, right? They're great at producing a product that we all like, even when the product is not good. But they're not a great investigating body at all. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where this has gone worse. The NFL has absolutely botched this investigation. Ezekiel Elliott is suing the NFL on this. And unlike Tom Brady in the Deflategate lawsuit, Ezekiel Elliott might win. Okay, I mean, I can't see in any of this stuff, and I've been reading the summaries, and I've read a lot of these interviews, and it took me forever, and I had to speed read, and it's too much. But a lot of it is the NFL doesn't look like they have a leg to stand on here, that their own investigators did not believe that they had sufficient evidence to suspend Ezekiel Elliott in any kind of way, much less for almost half the season. And I have been all for suspending Ezekiel Elliott because the dude's been nothing but a knucklehead off the field since he's entered the league, right? Like, I'm all for it, but actually have something there if you're going to suspend him. Like, I'm not about guys just being suspended off of the idea that the league just wants a guy suspended. Because where does it stop, right? Like, where do you draw the line of, well, we feel like you did it? Where do you draw that line? And that's why that's a power that the players should never have allowed Roger Goodell and the owners to have. Should never have allowed it to happen. But again, I don't believe that anybody imagined that those powers would be abused in this particular kind of way. And it has been nothing short of absolutely abused. And it happens all the time. Like, this is not something that's just exclusive to the NFL and the NFL Players Association, even though it looks bad because the NFL Players Association is just steady getting their behinds handed back to them. So, like, it looks terrible, but let me tell you something. I mean, look at our president right now, and look at the president that we just had, and look at the president before him, and the president before him. Right now, the powers of the U.S. president are as such that the president now has more powers than the president had 20 years ago. And the president 20 years ago had more powers than the president had 20 years before him. And all of those presidents had more power than George Washington ever had. Why? Because we keep allowing the president to take powers. And then 20 years down the line, there's some dude abusing those powers in a way that we never imagined that he would. Right? That you got the Russia investigation going on with Donald Trump, and he is asking if he can just pardon himself, if he can pardon the people around him. Why? You never imagined that power would be used in that manner when the president had that power, right? And like when we allow our government to do stuff, we give them powers, we give them abilities, and they use it in ways we would never have imagined, right? Not to get too political on you, but I'm going to get too political on you. The Patriot Act is the perfect example of this, right? We used the Patriot Act initially after 9/11 to protect ourselves from terrorists. And what ended up happening was the Patriot Act is pretty much just used as an excuse for the government to spy on Americans. Right? That's not a conspiracy theory. Them's be facts, bro. Look it up. The government just spied on Americans with the Patriot Act. We gave them the power because we were afraid, and then they used that power in ways we would never have imagined. And you've got to be careful with that stuff. But again, are you going to say the American people were stupid or they were foolish? No, we were scared. We were scared, and we reacted like any group of scared people would react. Do what it takes to make the thing that's scaring us go away. That's a rational action. It's short-sighted, but it's rational. When you look at the NFL and you look at the players and you look at how the average NFL career is incredibly short, when you look at the pain that these guys go through, the damage to their bodies, the fact that their contracts are not guaranteed in the same way that an NBA player or an NHL player or an MLB player has a guaranteed contract, that yeah, you can see why it's rational that these guys, when offered more money, would take more money and give up certain powers, not believing that their commissioner, the guy that honestly they feel works with them and represents them, even though that's not true, as we've come to find out. We've come to find out that Roger Goodell just works for the owners, right? Which is not a statement that we've ever had to make about any other commissioner, right? It's not, they all work for the owners of their respected leagues. But only Roger Goodell has actually made it something that we have noticed, that he works for the owners and not the players, right? There's a certain level of disguise that other commissioners have been able to have. Even David Stern at the end of his NBA tenure, when we just all hated him, even David Stern pretty much had that disguise. Like, we hated David Stern because he thought he was bad at dealing with players and dealing with us, not because we thought that he was just sticking up for the owners and screwing over everybody else. So that's crazy to me. Roger Goodell has, we have come like to be wise to Roger Goodell's act, but he already has the power. We can't take it back from him. And so, yes, the NFL's contract is up, I believe, in 2020. NFL's contract is up in 2020 or 2021. I don't remember off the top of my head. And the collection, that's when the collective bargaining agreement, expires. And you better believe we're going to miss football over this. The players are going to want that power back from Roger Goodell. They're going to want that power back from the owners. They're going to want it. Now, I don't know if they have the leverage to negotiate that because, you have a lockout. Players are missing work. That means you're not getting paid for your work. You're not getting paid in that same time frame. So players will end up coming to the negotiating table eventually. The owners have billions, can just wait them out. I don't know if the players have the leverage to negotiate that back, but you better believe they're going to try. You better believe we're missing football over this. I don't know if we're going to have a shortened season or a canceled season or what. We are missing football over this the next time there's a CBA, right? And if you're a college football fan, this in no way affects you, I suppose. But if you are a fan of the NFL, you're a Titans fan, you're a Falcons fan, you're a fan of anybody else, in 3 years, then mark my words, this is my guarantee, we are missing football because the NFL keeps mishandling stuff like this, because Roger Goodell keeps mishandling stuff like this, and the owners just keep giving him money. You can't abuse the power and be bad at abusing the power too. Makes no sense whatsoever. All right, so that's with all that stuff, the heavy stuff's out of the way now. Clutch with Keon Rose and AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. We are going to move to our college football preview. Week 1 is finally here. Merry football Christmas, everybody.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Good news out of Sequatchie County.
It was the morning of Thanksgiving and release. She is home.
Carol Gaddy, political prisoner, 69 years old, has been freed from jail. June Griffith, speaking on the subject, said this.
Carol won her point in that she got to say who came and go on the property.
Carol Gaddy faced contempt of court charges. She refused to allow an illegal warrantless search of her property. She's now free. Police intercepted a vehicle they say contained the victims of a father and husband, Robert Lee Harley, accused of forcing his wife and daughter into a vehicle and then speeding off in it. Police intercepting it, arresting Mr. Harley. Bob Doak, the president of the Chattanooga Visitors Bureau, says he's going to retire after 35 years of service to the city. He will remain at his post until early 2018, recently coming under scrutiny from Commissioner Tim Boyd. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7's fast forecast now. Thunderstorms and scattered thunderstorms as we finish out our day. 79 is the high today and 72 the low. 77 should be about the current temperature. Tomorrow, more thunderstorms expected and rain overnight. 60 the low and 75 the high on Friday. Should be clearing up by Saturday with partly cloudy conditions. And on Sunday, clear. That's your Nooga Radio 92.7 fast forecast now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. EJ Pelton Company, 332-3339.
When my brother and I opened the first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Don't punish your gun by leaving it in a corner. Shoot it, sell it, or just toss it. Okay. Don't toss it. Make money with it. Shooter Supply and Indoor Range, the hottest gun shop in town, finds buyers for your extra firearms. Put cash in your pocket today. Are ARs cluttering your closet? Rugers rusting in your rec room? Shooter's Supply and Indoor Range in Hickson will take your firearm and put it on consignment. To you, that means no money out of your pocket with a small fee when the gun sells. Larry at Shooters has got an online store. He's licensed to ship anywhere. It's as if Shooter Supply were giving your billfold cover fire. Get the biggest number of bucks from the smallest Derringer to the longest Barrett. Maximum price, shortest time. What a great deal. Shooters-range.com. Shooters-range.com. That's shooters-range.com. Check with Larry.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with whom? Another state? Another country? Get a local independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. gossinsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing auto owners insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500, 875-2500. gossinsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing auto owners insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. gossinsurance.wordpress.com.
Hi, I'm David Crockett, and I'm here with David Tulis, and we're having a little discussion over who's the number one Nooga centrist. If you want to keep up with free market ideas, then read Nooganomics.com. David Tulis, the blogger with the biggest pen.
Hi, this is Chrissy. And this is Summer of Summer Cares. There are too many homeless veterans in Chattanooga. Please help us in our Shoebox for Veterans campaign. You can fill a shoebox with hand warmers, hand sanitizers, hand wipes, cough drops, razors, shaving cream, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, deodorant, snacks, socks, gloves, and even a small blanket.
And make sure you drop your shoeboxes or your shoebox items off at Nooga Radio Studio on Hickson Pike across from Bojangles below Goss Insurance or Alpine Crest Elementary School.
Please join us at the Community Kitchen in Chattanooga on November 10th from 11 to 12:30 and help us distribute these care packages to the homeless veterans of Chattanooga. No veteran should ever go homeless.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. College football returns. I'm trying to keep my voice low because it is going to get very loud over this next segment. It will. I'm trying to get myself back down to like NPR status, which I feel like I have an NPR name. It's NPR, Keon Rose. Because NPR people always have like Robert Siegel, Melissa Block, Lakshmi saying, Keon Rose, I feel like is actually a very, very NPR name. So I'm trying to keep myself down here because it's football Christmas. We're talking about football Christmas, and I'm not going to be able to control myself. I understand that this is a flaw of mine. I have said on this show many, many, many times that you can counteract a lot of the things that are wrong with you with self-awareness, with the awareness of these things that are wrong with you. And I understand one of the things about me is that when I get excited about something, anything, and it really doesn't matter what it is, my voice will go up in volume. And it goes up in volume without my noticing or without my knowing. So I try and keep my voice down a little bit. But when I get fired up about stuff like that last Ezekiel Elliott segment, like, yeah, it goes up. It goes up. And it goes up no matter what it is that I am talking about. Right? Like I have a lot of different opinions on different things in life. I've got political opinions. I've got just random do-it-yourself opinions. Yeah, you find me on something that's a passion point of mine, and I will light it on fire. That's just kind of how I roll. But I also understand that your eardrums must be valuable to you. So we're going to try and keep it under wraps here, but I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Okay? So Football Christmas Eve was really last night. They started us off with some football games that I thought were fairly fascinating, though not really, really interesting. I'm not going to lie. This week one of the college football season, not very interesting. I'm going to give you the top 25, and then I'm going to give you some of the SEC schools that were not involved in the top 25 when I make my picks here, which shouldn't be very many. But let me start with the games that happened last night, right? Stanford played Rice, not last night, but actually last Saturday, before/during the McGregor-Mayweather fight. And not worth mentioning, Stanford beat Rice half to death, 62-7. Then South Florida, Charlie Strong gets off to a nice start. They're ranked 19th in the nation, so that's pretty cool. San Jose State, 42-22, the South Florida Bulls beat San Jose State in a Charlie Strong debut. So I thought that was something that was at least very fascinating to watch. So at South Florida, by the way, put up 28 points in the second quarter, which is alarming to say the least. Ohio State last night wins it going away from Indiana, 49-21. I don't know who it is that was gambling on that game, but Ohio State were 25-point favorites. They were 25-point favorites. They beat them 49-21. So I would say that they very easily covered that spread. And then Oklahoma State over Tulsa, 59-24, which if I am Oklahoma State, I'm at least a little bit worried about that defense, giving up 17 points to Tulsa in the second. But other than that, no, Oklahoma State did exactly what it was that we thought Oklahoma State was going to be able to do, which is 59-24. Oklahoma State, one of those teams that are considered a possible playoff team out of the Big 12, albeit a dark horse, because we all believe that Oklahoma is the actual best team in that conference. And Ohio State, also a possible playoff team favorite, because they have not ever missed the playoff since we started doing this thing, right? Like Ohio State and Alabama have not actually missed the playoff yet. So since we've begun this dance, Ohio State off to a great start. JT Barrett, he's good. I feel like that sums that up nicely, right? Like he wavered at the end of last season. So if you were one of those people that have always doubted JT Barrett, there was a reason for you to doubt JT Barrett. Yeah, answered. He's still here. He's still here. He's still good. So we've got some more games. We've got some more games tonight before we roll into tomorrow. So it's like extended Christmas Eve. Tonight we've got Washington and Rutgers, which, Washington is a 27.5-point favorite over Rutgers. They're at Rutgers. You don't have to watch this game. Washington is going to beat Rutgers into a coma. I don't understand why this is the game that they decided to roll with the night before. But I guess since everyone's going to jump on Saturday, I suppose that this is one of those games that we might as well just take a look at. I don't know. This is not an interesting game in any way. And then Utah State versus Wisconsin. Utah State, 27.5-point dog to Wisconsin, in the same way that Rutgers is a 27.5-point dog to Washington. So I'm thinking both of those teams, Wisconsin and Washington, cover the spread. I would say that would be my guess. I don't know how much more analysis you need on that. Wisconsin's better than Utah State. Washington's better than Rutgers. I can't imagine that Rutgers stops anything that Washington actually does. If Washington wants to run the ball, they'll run the ball. If they want to go the Jake Browning route, which is their strength and specialty, and throw the ball, they'll throw the ball. Like, there's nothing that Rutgers can actually stop Washington from doing. This is a team that last year got the brakes beaten off of them in a historical fashion. So no, I don't. Why are they showing these games? I don't know why. Right? Like, at least when you look at like last Saturday and last night, like Ohio State and Indiana, we all know Ohio State's winning that game, but at least that's like a very vaguely interesting matchup, because you've got like, oh, we're in the same division. We're in the same conference. This might be, so you got some familiar teams here. We're trying to test ourselves, see how good we are. The Oklahoma State Tulsa thing is more interesting. Washington and Rutgers, why? Utah State and Wisconsin, why? Not entirely certain. So let's now get to the real stuff here, starting on Saturday. And I say the real stuff in quotes because, again, like I said before, a lot of these games are not very interesting, right? And I'm just going to go in order of the time that they're being played. Clemson opens up against Kent State. Might be interesting for a quarter or two just to see how good Clemson is. They are 39.5-point favorites over Kent State, which no matter how good the new quarterback plays, Clemson should be fine. They're ranked 5th in the nation. Kent State, not going to stop them, right? Like, really just not going to stop them. But it might be interesting for a quarter or a quarter and a half just to see what it is that the new Clemson team looks like without Deshaun Watson. Penn State versus Akron. This is another snooze fest, but I'm very interested in Penn State, just seeing how it is that James Franklin is able to keep up what it is that Penn State has been doing up there. And whether or not they can build on the season that they had, that's another game that starts. You might want to flip back and forth between those two games, the Clemson game and the Penn State game, because that's another game that might be interesting for about a quarter and a half. Then we have another game that I find to be interesting and maybe interesting for much longer. Texas versus Maryland. And yes, I understand that Maryland is bad at football. I'm a Texas fan, so I am a little bit biased. But a 19-point favorite is Texas over Maryland. The Tom Herman thing, people are buying into Texas. People are like, Texas is actually ranked in the top 25, which did surprise me when that happened, right? But people are buying into Texas. And part of the are we actually buying correctly into Texas thing that is happening is Texas needs to come up and just blow Maryland out of the country, right? Just extradite them. Just send them somewhere else, right? Like, just need to show up and just stomp them into the dirt because they should be the superior football team in every way. That, like, this Tom Herman thing needs to start off well, and if it starts off with Texas covering the spread, they're 19-point favorites, starts off with that, then I can't really imagine that the Tom Herman thing is going to go too poorly. Or at least it's going to have some hope, and we can continue to ride Texas because Texas is going to have some tough games coming up in week 2 and week 3 of this college football season. So this is a good opening thing to happen. Like, this is the good kind of uninteresting game. As we get another snooze fest starting 30 minutes later with number 18 Miami and Mark Richt taking on Bethune-Cookman, which is a university that I just discovered was a university. I didn't know that they actually existed, nor once I discovered that they existed, nor did I realize that they actually had a football team. News to me. Absolutely news to me. I was not aware of this. This is not something that I knew. So there you go. Miami, Bethune-Cookman. Probably don't watch it. You'll have to watch it on the ACC network if you want to watch it at all. If you somehow have the ACC network because you're horribly addicted to college football, don't watch it. I mean, that game's going to be interesting for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, right? I'm giving Penn State, Akron, and Clemson, Kent State like a quarter and a half. Miami, Bethune-Cookman, interesting for exactly 5 minutes. That's my over-under on how long that game is going to take to get out of hand. Oklahoma versus UTEP. Oklahoma 7th in the nation. And again, that starts at 3:30. One of those games that, look, it's not a good game, right? Oklahoma versus UTEP. I don't expect Oklahoma to have any struggles with Texas El Paso. But I will say this. This is one of those games where you want to see what the new coach looks like, right? Like, how does he work? What does his offense look like? Is it a change from what Stoops had going on? This is how you're going to see all of this stuff, and you're going to see it in a condition where there's relatively low pressure. And then, of course, if they struggle, then you've just got warning flags all over the place. That one might be interesting for a quarter. Lincoln Riley is the new head coach of Oklahoma. Then we have the game that, to me, is the most actually interesting game going on here, and that is Michigan and Florida. Michigan and Florida. Number 11, Michigan. Number 17, Florida. Now, I don't know how good this game is actually going to be, especially if you are a Florida fan, because you are missing 10 players. They are suspended for this game. Now, a lot of people are going, oh, look, Jim McElwain's got his excuses lined up and ready to go. But this isn't about excuses. Let's be honest. This is not about excuses. This is about you just have a bunch of guys that are not very disciplined and not staying out of trouble off the field. That's not good. That is not good. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 at 92.7 FM, our college football week 1 preview, Florida, Michigan. I think Michigan gets the win. I originally did pick Florida, I know, but I'm backtracking on this one because Antonio Callaway, who is by far the best player on that team, has been suspended, and then Jordan Scarlett, the running back, has been suspended, and then Jim McElwain announces that the redshirt freshman Felipe Franks is going to come in and be the guy. And look, I'm all for starting freshmen, right? Like I'm big star freshman dude if you believe that freshman is that guy, right? I am a pure proponent of that. But I will say this too. If you take away that freshman's 2 best weapons on his offense and expect him to go out there and succeed against the school that at least is decent, right? Like Michigan's not a good defensive team, but they're not a bad defensive team either. Like they can do some things to make Felipe Franks uncomfortable. The only thing we know about Felipe Franks is that his arm is a cannon. I don't know how accurate he is. I don't know how well he can read the field. I don't know if he's good at making quick decisions. We don't know because I haven't seen him under any of that live fire whatsoever. And this is going to be the first time we're all seeing him. It's going to be a very fascinating game, but one that I'm not entirely certain that Florida can win in its current state. And I'm very disappointed in how that quarterback thing played out, right? Because you've got Jim McElwain talking about how he's going to start 3 quarterbacks and all this stuff. And I get it. There's a little bit of gamesmanship going on, but let's be completely honest, right? If you thought any one of those 3 dudes was your guy, you would have rolled with him from the absolute beginning because you want to give that guy confidence and the ability to play. The fact of the matter is you made a very big stink about graduate transfers and bringing in Malik Zaire. You made a fantastically large stink about it, right? We had to wait on a rule change in the SEC to get that thing through. It was a big storyline of the offseason. And what you're ultimately finding out is, for whatever reason, Malik Zaire did not impress you enough to beat out a freshman. And look, if Felipe Franks had been the guy running away with it, then again, we would have heard that earlier as well. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, all 3 of these guys are kind of not great. Let's go with the freshman because he's got the most upside and potential and see what it is that we have in the guy. And I'm not entirely certain how I feel. Like, I don't feel confident about this quarterback situation in Florida. My whole premise of Florida being able to challenge for the East this year was that finally, Jim McElwain, who has his defense together, finally would have an offense that could do something and finally would have a quarterback who could make that offense finally tick, and he doesn't have it, right? Like, that's what all I've learned this offseason with Florida is that he actually doesn't have it. And I feel stupid about this because after saying all season, like, look, you brought in Malik Zaire, you must have it. You don't have it. Because you don't believe enough in Zaire to start Zaire, and we all saw what Luke Del Rio was. Now, you can try and deceive me that Luke Del Rio was in the mix, but I have eyes, and I saw what happened last year. That dude was not good. He was not good. So if you're telling me Luke Del Rio's in the mix, you are in trouble, because the other 2 guys need to be better than Luke Del Rio. Just do. Clutch with Keon Rose and AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. College football week 1 preview. 4 o'clock is South Florida and Stony Brook, so we're going to see if Charlie Strong can continue his strong play from last week. We'll see, but I'm not entirely certain this is an interesting football game. Really? Stony Brook? Stony Brook I knew was a university. One of these days we're going to play a game called University or Not a University with my brother, and I'm going to toss out names of universities that are playing schools like South Florida, like Bethune-Cookman and Stony Brook. I'm going to see if he knows if that's a university or not a university, because I feel like that's going to be a fun game to play with that guy. Stony Brook, university or not a university? Is a university and apparently has a football team. USC versus Western Michigan. Western Michigan was an interesting team last year. College Game Day even did a Saturday morning up there. So that was very fascinating. The Titans drafted the young receiver from there as well. So, I mean, like that, Western Michigan is a decent Division II school, but come on, they're playing the Trojans. Game over. That's around 5:15. That might be interesting for about 5 minutes. If Sam Darnold is everything that we think he is, that might be interesting for about 5 minutes. Athens, Georgia. Appalachian State versus the Georgia Bulldogs. I obviously believe that the Bulldogs are going to win this game. The question is, I want to make sure. This, again, is another one of those games that's not interesting, but is a very interesting, not interesting game, right? How many interesting, not interestings do we have so far? Texas, Maryland is an interesting, not interesting, because you got the new coach storyline. Oklahoma, UTEP, interesting, not interesting, because, again, the new coach storyline. And now Georgia, Appalachian State falls in the very interesting, not very interesting category, because Kirby Smart, we want to see him make the leap as a head coach. We want to see him get better. We want to see this team get better under him. We want to see Jacob Eason make the leap as a quarterback. And this offense that has struggled against inferior schools all year last year, like really struggled in ways that you would not expect a team of this caliber with this level of talent on it to struggle. They need to correct that. And how better to correct that than against Appalachian State, a team that gave Tennessee fits when they played them last year. Tennessee, another school with way too much talent to be struggling in the way that they struggled, right? Like, that's the thing that we saw with them. And so Georgia can exercise some demons here and put on a really good show for us and show why it is that I believe and that most people believe Georgia's winning the East this year. Because if Georgia struggles in this, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's no way to diagnose what that is. They're 14.5-point favorites, which I think sounds about right. Knocking the rust off there. But I think that they should win this one handily. And if they don't, I would sweat a little bit. I would sweat a little bit. Kansas State versus Central Arkansas is completely uninteresting in every single way, but Kansas State probably gets the win. Auburn versus Georgia Southern is another interesting, not interesting. I feel like the SEC has all the interesting, not interesting games, but here comes Auburn and Georgia Southern. Might be interesting for about a quarter, but I want to see how Jarrett Stidham looks. I want to see him in live action. I want to see how the ball comes off his arm. I want to see what he looks like reading a defense. Don't expect it to be a very good, close, competitive game. Auburn is a 34-point favorite in the game. But, again, this is one of those things where you've got the new quarterback or you've got the new coach. Those storylines, to me, are interesting, even if the matchup between opponents is, in fact, uninteresting. Louisville versus Purdue. Purdue has a lot of promise and a lot of upside moving into the future. They're not going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson. He's going to make them look very, very silly. I know we've forgotten about Lamar Jackson because even though he won the Heisman last year, like the last 4 games before he won the Heisman, he did not look very impressive. And in fact, in the last 2 games before he won the Heisman, he looked particularly human. But you know what? That's not necessarily his fault. He doesn't have the best team around him as such. But yeah, there's nothing Purdue can do to stop Lamar Jackson. Let's be honest here. There's nothing Purdue can do to stop him. 25-point favorites, Louisville over Purdue. And that brings me to the game of the evening. There are other games played later that day, but this is the game of the evening. This is the game of the evening. Alabama versus Florida State. 7-point favorites. Alabama over Florida State. And I think that this is a fascinating game for a litany of reasons, right? You got the new offensive coordinator angle over at Alabama. Can the new offensive coordinator match what it was that Kiffin was giving them last year in terms of an exciting up-tempo offense with a young, dynamic quarterback who was the SEC Player of the Year in Jalen Hurts? Also, Alabama, as every year, we don't know how good they're going to be at some point early in the season because of the amount of players that they lose to the NFL draft. They lost a lot of linebackers to the NFL draft this year, and I don't know how strong that unit is, at least to start the season. I imagine at some point during the middle of the season, they're going to find their footing because they are Alabama. But early on, I think they are vulnerable, and playing Florida State this early does give us an opportunity to maybe see the biggest upset in college football this weekend. Also, Florida State, DeAndre Francois, how good is he really? How good is he really? Because Jameis Winston left some very big shoes for that guy to fill. And look, I'm not expecting DeAndre Francois to beat Jameis Winston. But let's be honest, Jameis Winston's last season, Florida State won a bunch of games, and they weren't very good. And they won a bunch of games because Jameis Winston won a bunch of games, right? Like Jameis Winston turned it on in the second half of games, and Florida State would be down 17. They'd be down 14. They'd be down nearly 20, and they'd still find a way to come back and win, which is a credit to their defense and the adjustments in the second half. But a lot of it is a credit to the fact that Jameis Winston would come alive and find a way to get that offense to move, would just kick it into gear. And I don't know if DeAndre Francois has that gene in him, but the fact of the matter is he is the exact kind of quarterback that gives Alabama fits. And he's going to need to throw for a bunch of yards, and he does have a strong arm and is a capable passer, and he's going to need to be able to run for a bunch of yards, and he's a very good runner as well. So again, Alabama, Florida State, very fascinating game. LSU plays BYU. File that again under interesting, not interesting. I hope not to have a bunch of these every single week. But Ed Orgeron, like week 1, by the way, of any sport, is going to produce the most interesting, uninteresting games. But Ed Orgeron, as the official head coach of LSU, Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator, can he give Danny Etling that boost? Can LSU score points? Can they fix this offensive thing that they've had going on? BYU's already won a game. They're already 1-0. LSU, number 13. Are they worthy of that ranking? We'll find out, right? Washington State versus Montana State. Washington State is ranked 24. Montana State is Montana State. Washington State probably wins that one going away, but it doesn't seem interesting, so probably don't watch it unless you're just a junkie, unless you're just a college football junkie. Virginia Tech versus West Virginia is actually a very fascinating game. Might be able to plunk down and watch that one. You got Will Greer, who used to play at Florida, so you got a nice little SEC draw there. And Dana Holgorsen running a very exciting offense. Virginia Tech, they're very excitable as well. And they're both ranked 21 and 22, respectively. So I'm very interested in seeing how that goes. What's the separation between Virginia Tech and West Virginia? And, of course, Tennessee versus Georgia Tech, which I expect Tennessee to beat Georgia Tech. It is a home game for Georgia Tech, even though they're going to be playing where the Falcons play in the new Mercedes Dome, Tennessee's just better than Georgia Tech is talent-wise, and Tennessee, as well as being better talent-wise, has had the offseason to prepare for Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech runs that triple option, which can catch people off guard. Shouldn't catch Tennessee off guard if you had an offseason knowing who your opponent was about to be. Like, Georgia Tech does not fool you if you have more talent at the beginning of the season. I don't think. Tennessee ought to win that one as well. So that's it for the week 1 college football preview. I might get into the granular, might get into the nitty-gritty of that a little bit later on in the show, but I want to give you my Maria Sharapova take as well. Next, Clutch with Keon Rose.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You've been in a wreck.
756-6400.
You've been wrongfully fired.
756-6400.
A turkey is suing you out of the blue.
756-6400.
Confused about a business startup?
756-6400.
That's the number for you. 756-6400. Right here, right now, Chattanooga. Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. Get biz advice now. Representation to fight for your right. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Don't sit on your rights. You've got remedies. Turn your tragedy into cash. You've got the solution, from estate planning all the way to probate. Act now. Top attorneys in Chattanooga are waiting to help you get relief. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Turn your tragedy into cash. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
756-6400.
The essential oils have been around for thousands of years. They're beneficial because they're natural, they're safe, and they can help you. My name's Loretta Lynn. I'm with Loretta Lynn's Essential Oils, and you can find me on Facebook at Loretta Lynn's Essential Oils. If you have migraines, headaches, aches and pains, gout, diabetes, sleep apnea, erectile dysfunction, the essential oils can help you. Call me today for a free consultation, 423-605-4719. Call me, Loretta Lynn, Loretta Lynn's Essential Oils on Facebook.
Does your business have enough clients? Are you confused about how to stand out in today's saturated social media market? Do you feel lost trying to navigate the maze of marketing channels which are necessary in today's marketplace? Are you fed up with spending your time and money on employees who don't perform and marketing strategies that don't produce? Then you need Cindy's Choice. Cindy will solve your marketing problems with her innovative shared marketing management concept that will allow your business to have the benefits of a full-time employee that is actually out building relationships in the community on behalf of your brand. Cindy's low monthly rate includes
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga,
WSDT Sunny Daisy Chattanooga.
1 week after Hurricane Harvey hit Texas,
there still remain areas that are deadly dangerous.
For example, in Beaumont,
they have to get thousands of people out of the emergency shelters here.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett. We begin tonight with a song.
Sing because I'm happy. Sing because I'm free.
Ernest Bowie sang at the airport in Beaumont, Texas, as he waited for his seat on a flight out. Many people arrived aboard buses.
There are dozens of them coming in here to the staging area at the airport. They are filled with storm evacuees who will be put on military transport planes, C-130 aircraft, and flown to Dallas or San Antonio.
CBS's Jim Krasula watched those evacuees try to put pieces of their lives together again.
People literally are picking through piles of donated clothing and shoes and then putting that, in a lot of cases, into big black plastic bags. And that's what they are taking with them on the next chapter of their lives.
Over in the western part of Houston, residents are being asked to consider evacuating. Mayor Sylvester Turner.
If you're living in houses with water, you have water currently in your home, I'm going to encourage you in the strongest of terms to leave your homes.
Because with more water released from reservoirs, there could be more flooding. In Houston, a tale of incredibly bad luck. As correspondent Steve Futterman explains, this couple had owned Texas residences 185 miles apart. Both were hit by Harvey and the flooding.
First came the Rockport home. What exists of that now?
Maybe 3 walls.
3 days later, Jake and Teresa Martinez' Houston area home came under Harvey's attack.
We lost 2 houses in 3 days.
The home here in the Houston area has suffered extensive flood damage. All this, and they are still optimistic.
What else can we do?
We already cried.
There are people who are worse off than we are.
Steve Futterman, CBS News, Houston.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says more than 440,000 residents have requested help from FEMA, which has okayed $79 million worth of assistance. As for getting around, the governor says
The state of Texas will have plenty of gasoline.
But it's costing more nationally. The average for regular, now $2.54 a gallon. Gas Buddy says that's up 18 cents in the past week. Some experts say till refineries get back on track, the national average for gasoline may rise to $2.75. Sunday's a national day of prayer. Tomorrow, President Trump returns to Texas. He'll check hurricane damage there and in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Wall Street, the Dow gained 39. The NASDAQ rose 6. Now this.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. Every day people ask me, Jay, did I miss out? Have the rates gone up? The answer is no. Rates are still low, and it's a perfect time to refinance your home, especially if your mortgage rate is higher than 4.25%. If you'd like to lower your interest rate and save thousands of dollars in interest without starting over on a new 30-year loan, a Quicken Loans Yorgage is what you're looking for. With our exclusive Yorgage, you can choose a term that works best for you, anywhere from 8 to 30 years. The rate today on an 8-year Yorgage is 3.25%, APR 3.75%. For 7 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation for customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. And for the 4th year in a row, they've also ranked us highest in the nation for mortgage servicing. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to quickenloans.com. That's 800-QUICKEN.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
What happens to kids who came into the U.S. with relatives who got here illegally? White House correspondent Stephen Portnoy says we'll know soon.
The White House says the president will announce his decision on Tuesday. Several states, including Texas, have set a Tuesday deadline, threatening to sue over a program created by Barack Obama without an act of Congress. House Speaker Paul Ryan says lawmakers are now working on a fix for the hundreds of thousands of young people who've been given work permits that may not be renewed under President Trump.
Following the death of a Penn State University fraternity pledge who died after a drinking binge, serious charges were filed against Beta Theta Pi, but now a judge says 12 defendants won't be prosecuted for many of those charges. Heat wave today in California, up to 110 in L.A., 100 in San Francisco. Residents are being asked to cut back on the AC as this could be a record power use day.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Good news out of Sequatchie County.
It was the morning of Thanksgiving and release. She is home.
Carol Gaddy, political prisoner, 69 years old, has been freed from jail. June Griffith, speaking on the subject, said this.
Carol won her point in that she got to say who came and go on the property.
Carol Gaddy faced contempt of court charges. She refused to allow an illegal warrantless search of her property. She's now free. Police intercepted a vehicle they say contained the victims of a father and husband, Robert Lee Harley, accused of forcing his wife and daughter into a vehicle and then speeding off in it. Police intercepting it, arresting Mr. Harley. Bob Doak, the president of the Chattanooga Visitors Bureau, says he's going to retire after 35 years of service to the city. He'll remain at his post until early 2018, recently coming under scrutiny from Commissioner Tim Boyd. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7's fast forecast now. Thunderstorms and scattered thunderstorms as we finish out our day. 79 is the high today and 72 the low. 77 should be about the current temperature. Tomorrow, more thunderstorms expected and rain overnight. 60 the low and 75 the high on Friday. Should be clearing up by Saturday with partly cloudy conditions. And on Sunday, clear. That's your Nooga Radio 92.7 fast forecast now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. It is the college football week 1 preview because it's football Christmas. Do you understand how exciting that is? Do you understand how truly, truly exciting it is? It's football Christmas. As a sports fan, I celebrate Christmas multiple times a year. Some Christmases I celebrate are actually better than actual Christmas. I don't need gifts. I just need my TV and the game. That might be the coolest thing I've ever said. So let's do that. I'm going to find a way to keep that. But in all seriousness, I'm excited about all this coming back tomorrow. Noon, Texas plays Maryland. I'm a Texas fan. It's going to be cool. I'm very excited about this. But let me give you some tennis news because this is also happening. The U.S. Open is also happening. And Serena not playing in the U.S. Open because she's achieving a different kind of accomplishment. She's a mom now. Serena Williams is the mother of a child, and I'm really bad at doing this. This being talking about children. I'm not great at it. I don't know what to say to people when they have a kid other than like congratulations on and good luck on raising a human. Have fun. I'm not entirely certain what to say after that point because it is exciting to become a parent and I've seen that excitement in the lives of other folks that I know because I am 27 years old, and that is the point in my life where all my friends are either getting married or having kids. Like, that's where we are. So I've seen the excitement of people becoming a parent. I get that. I also don't understand what I'm supposed to say to you. I'm really bad in social situations. I'm terrible in social situations that don't involve sports. I'm decent in social situations where we get to talk about sports. And I'm very good in social situations where I get to talk about radio. I nerd out about that stuff. Where I'm bad, where I'm not any good whatsoever, is in a situation, in a social situation, where I have to talk about anything else that's not those things, right? Check that, actually. I think I'm pretty good at talking politics. But anything else that's not those three things, I'm ooh. And so, yeah, when you're me, there's a lot of landmines that you have to avoid because I'm not so big on talking about children. And so Serena Williams is a mom. So I'm going to say what I say to everybody in her position, which is congratulations and good luck on raising a human. I wish you the best. Wish you the best. There you go. So now I've gotten that out of the way, and I get to talk about the tennis stuff that I really, really want to talk about. Which is, one, I'm a really big fan of Sloane Stephens. And she won today her tennis match, straight sets, over, I just had it there, over Ashley Barty of Australia. And Venus Williams won as well over Maria Sakkari of Greece, also in straight sets. Venus Williams, by the way, really, really great. Just to point out, Venus Williams is particularly underrated as she wins her 74th U.S. Open match and, yeah, has a chance to probably win another major here. And I just think that was one of those things where in the shadow of Serena, because Venus dealt with sickness and health issues, in the shadow of Serena, we just sort of forgot that Venus was great, which is unfortunate and also weird because, like, when else in sports have you ever seen that where the younger sibling outshines the older sibling in that way, right? I guess you got Derek and David Carr. David Carr was drafted to the expansion Houston Texans, and I think could have been one of the better quarterbacks in our league, except he was beaten up and knocked out of the league, just lost his confidence. We talk about that storyline all the time as well. But Derek Carr, the younger brother there, I wouldn't say that Eli has ever outshined Peyton. Eli had 2 Super Bowls to Peyton's 1 Super Bowl, won his 2 Super Bowls in more dramatic fashion, and in more historically relevant Super Bowls than any Super Bowl that Peyton ever played in, really. Except, Peyton played in the Super Bowl where a black coach won the Super Bowl for the first time ever. So I suppose that has relevance. But I'm talking about in terms of just the greatness of Tom Brady. That was up for debate. It's not now, but it was at the time. And then the Patriots and their undefeated season. They're 18-0. So you had that stuff on the line when Eli won both of his Super Bowls. And I still don't think that Eli has ever, a day in his life, outshined Peyton Manning. Never. It just doesn't happen often. If an older sibling is really good at sports and then the younger sibling comes along, very typically the older sibling outshines and overshadows the younger one. And right now, like Serena and Venus are the only ones I can think of, because David and Derek never played at the same time, right? That's the only thing that I have with the Derek-David Carr thing, is that neither of those guys played at once. I can't think of another one where the older sibling has completely overshadowed, or has been completely overshadowed by the younger one, except in the case of Venus and Serena. Number is 423-800-8949 if you want to come in with one that you think I am missing, but I don't think I'm missing it. And the only other one I can think of is that the Eli had the 2 Super Bowls to Peyton's 1, but I wouldn't say that Eli ever outshined Peyton in terms of popularity, in terms of, we just completely forgot about Peyton. There have been seasons where I've completely forgotten about Eli. Peyton wasn't in the league last year. I forgot about Eli last year because the Giants weren't great. Eli is in the league without his brother and is being outshined by his brother. I feel like I see Peyton more than I see Eli. So no, I don't think Eli Manning has ever outshined Peyton Manning a day in his life, even if you count the time where Eli won arguably 2 of the greatest Super Bowls in Super Bowl history, and just in the sense of drama. And what was at stake? That's it. To me, I don't understand it. I don't understand why, but Eli has never outshined Peyton. It's just never been that. And part of it is that possibly Eli Manning is just a powerfully average quarterback who's managed to win 2 Super Bowls. Where Serena has been dominant and has run tennis. And every time she and Venus meet as of late, Serena puts her older sister away, thus opening the stage for Serena to overshadow Venus. But while Serena's been out with this pregnancy, Venus has been reminding all of us, hey, she's still here. And by the way, she's really good. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Now you've got me on a roll. And while I'm still on a roll, I'm going to continue with the tennis takes. That's right, tennis takes. Because Carolyn Wozniacki expressed disdain for the fact that Maria Sharapova was playing in center court. Maria Sharapova playing the number 5 tennis player in the world. And Maria Sharapova herself, coming off of a performance-enhancing drug ban, is playing another unranked player, and they're playing in center court. And Carolyn Wozniacki hates this, right? Like, just absolutely does not believe that Maria Sharapova deserves to be on center court. This is what she said. And she said, I think putting out a schedule where the number 5 in the world is playing on court 5, 5th match on after 11, I think that's unacceptable. And when you're looking on center court, I understand completely the business side of things and everything, but someone who comes back from a drug sentence, performance-enhancing drugs, and then all of a sudden gets to play every single match on center court, I think that's a questionable thing to do. It doesn't set a very good example, and I think someone who has fought their way back from injury and is number 5 in the world deserves to play on a bigger court than court 5. And finally, they moved us to court 17, which is a really nice court, actually, and we've had a great atmosphere out there. But I think probably you should sometimes look into what they need to do in the future. Wozniacki is not buying Maria Sharapova and her comeback tour. Here's the problem with what Carolyn Wozniacki is saying, because she said she did acknowledge that she understands the business aspect of this. And I believe her, right? Like the business aspect of this is definitely huge because the comeback tour of Maria Sharapova is hugely important to tennis and is hugely important from just a television aspect. The more storylines you've got going, the bigger draw. You can sell more tickets. I guarantee you more people want to watch Maria Sharapova right now than anybody else. Fair or unfair. More people want to watch her than anybody else. So into center court she goes. And I actually agree with Carolyn here. Because of the terms under which Maria Sharapova finally returned, I think the tennis, you can forego the business of this and say you came back from using steroids. The reason why we suspend you for this is because we believe you to be cheating and trying to gain an unfair advantage in some way. We don't reward you by putting you on the biggest stage of one of the biggest tournaments of our sport. That is a reward. That is a privilege, and we're choosing to give it to you. And while I understand that having Sharapova in center court makes more money, there is a certain level of you understand what you're saying with this, right? Like you understand what your actions are saying, what your actions are saying about this, that the suspension of Maria Sharapova, despite the fact that she said she made a mistake, that action said we're going to be hard on cheaters. And then she comes back, and despite the fact that she's not ranked particularly high, because she has been gone, and despite the fact that other people are ranked higher, and there are other great storylines out there as well, what you're essentially saying is as long as you have the ability to make us more money, that's what counts. Once you've served your sentence, now we're going to go with the financial aspect of this. And it does seem inconsistent because if you were going to go based on money before, you could have just believed her excuse. You did not have to give her the full long sentence. You could have given her a shorter sentence, but you gave her the longest one possible. You're being inconsistent. The Tennis Association is being inconsistent with this because at first it's like, no, we're about the rules. And now this is about the money. And they are trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I suppose in this particular instance they can, but it does look bad. I mean, there's no denying that. It doesn't look great, but I think it does speak to the larger idea of how accepted the notion of performance-enhancing drugs are in sports, which isn't to say that we accept it. We still don't like it. And if you take performance-enhancing drugs without impunity, if you take performance-enhancing drugs and you just don't seem to care, we're still going to hate you. But it's the person who takes performance-enhancing drugs and they apologize. For some reason, we believe this person now in a way that we did not believe this person previously. That a person can say that I made a mistake and that I am sorry, and we will forgive their performance-enhancing drug use as though it did not happen, as evidenced by the fact that, like, Andy Pettit's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, we're going to end up with guys in the Hall of Fame that we believe used performance-enhancing drugs in baseball. People who apologize, that the mere act of apology is going to get you in. And we used to never accept any excuses for this stuff. And I'm not saying that we should go back to those days. I'm just saying it's changed. It's a gigantic sea change. We used to never accept excuses about this stuff. Ever. Ever. We didn't believe people when they said, I ate something and there was something in the meat. And look, here's why my steroid test went wrong. We used to not believe people when they were like, I was taking this supplement. But now that's exactly what we believe. That a guy says, like, I should be more careful about what I put in my body. I messed up. That used to never slide. And now we celebrate it. We celebrate the comeback from that. Look, she made her mistake. She did her time, and now she's back. And we celebrate it in a way that we have never celebrated that before and would never have tolerated it even 5 years ago, I don't think. And that's a fascinating change to me. I think it certainly is. Because we've come a long way for that. Right? Like, I remember when Andy Pettit apologized on TV, and I think like that's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, we forgive Andy Pettit. Why? Andy Pettit despite the fact that he got caught using performance-enhancing drugs, at no point in his career ever looked like a Hulk, ever looked like a behemoth. There's just certain people that we forgive because they look like the person who made a mistake. All right? There are certain people that have a certain look about them. You look at a guy, you think that guy might be suspicious. You look at people and decide whether or not they're untrustworthy or whether they're honest all the time. We make these decisions based on looks. And it's obviously not very scientific, but that's how we make a lot of these decisions. And I'm telling you, the reason why we're so enamored with Maria Sharapova and her return, and we're so enamored with Maria Sharapova and what she has done and the moment that she's having right now, coming back from a drug suspension where the drugs might have been helping her gain an unfair advantage against opponents. The reason why we are so forgiving of this is that Maria Sharapova, just her body does not look like a person who is cheating, right? She's skinny. She looks like a model. Maria Sharapova does not look like she's built. She doesn't look like someone who's just been downing steroids, right? Now, if you were to find out that Serena Williams was taking steroids and Serena said, look, it was a mistake and I'm sorry, do you believe Serena? Because I don't think you do. I don't think many of you believe Serena. And the reason why I don't think so is because Serena Williams has an unconventional body type for a woman. She's got muscles. She's got shoulders. She looks strong. Serena Williams looks like you do not want to fight Serena Williams. She looks in your mind like the kind of person who would take it, even though Serena Williams has not ever been caught using performance-enhancing drugs. She's never been caught using performance-enhancing drugs. She's taking all the same drug tests that Maria Sharapova was taking, and there are people that still suspect that she might be using. Why? Because she doesn't fit the mold. She does not fit the mold. Andy Pettit looks like a dude who was not taking steroids because Andy Pettit's still like really short. I think Andy Pettit's like 5'9" and really skinny. He does not look like the guy who is taking performance-enhancing drugs. Never mind that performance-enhancing drugs don't just build your muscles. We don't look at this the right way, right? We make judgments about people based on the eye test. The eye test without any data to back it up, the eye test without any other corroborating evidence is faulty, but we still just trust our eyes. Right? I'm a guy, I believe that you use multiple methods of finding facts. Your eyes can tell you the truth, but they can lie to you. Use numbers and your eyes and other methods to find out whether or not something is true, but we just use the eye test. And we just look at Andy Pettit and we just look at Maria Sharapova and go, okay, we believe that you're not using steroids. But if it was somebody else, we just don't buy it. We could very easily forgive Sharapova. We could very easily forgive Andy Pettit. But we're not going to forgive Alex Rodriguez. Now, part of it is that Alex Rodriguez is a jerk, but the other part of it is that Alex Rodriguez looks like a dude who might have taken steroids. I'm not going to forgive Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire because, again, those guys look the part of a steroid user. But steroids don't just make your muscles bigger. Steroids can help you with recovery. Performance-enhancing drugs, not just steroids, but performance-enhancing drugs such as amphetamines, my struggle with the English language today, such as amphetamines are capable of enhancing your concentration. There are a number of different ways to get an edge with performance-enhancing drugs, with steroids. There's a number of different ways to get an edge in that way. There's a number of different ways to get an edge in terms of endurance. This is not just about how big are your muscles. It's not. But that's how we accuse people. We accuse people like that with our eyes, right? I believe that if Venus Williams were caught using performance-enhancing drugs and she served a suspension and she came back, which would be impossible just at her age in tennis. But I'm saying if it happened for her, hypothetically speaking, I think we'd be more likely to forgive Venus than we would Serena. Why? Because Venus looks skinny. Serena doesn't. Serena doesn't. And it's the woman that's shaped like we don't believe a woman should be shaped like that we're having trouble forgiving here, even when she hasn't done anything wrong. Like, you can go find the accusations that people have had against Serena for her drug use, but she's never failed a drug test. Sharapova has, and we've already forgiven her. She's already on center court at the U.S. Open. And I'm saying, look, she served her time. She deserves just as much as anybody to be back. But the celebration of Maria Sharapova is interesting to me. It's fascinating. We've come a very long way in how it is that we think about steroid use. Touch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Good news out of Sequatchie County.
It was the morning of Thanksgiving and release. She is home.
Carol Gaddy, political prisoner, 69 years old, has been freed from jail. June Griffith, speaking on the subject, said this.
Carol won her point in that she got to say who came and go on the property.
Carol Gaddy faced contempt of court charges. She refused to allow an illegal warrantless search of her property. She's now free. Police intercepted a vehicle they say contained the victims of a father and husband, Robert Lee Harley, accused of forcing his wife and daughter into a vehicle and then speeding off in it. Police intercepting it, arresting Mr. Harley. Bob Doak, the president of the Chattanooga Visitors Bureau, says he's going to retire after 35 years of service to the city. He will remain at his post until early 2018, recently coming under scrutiny from Commissioner Tim Boyd. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7's fast forecast now. Thunderstorms and scattered thunderstorms as we finish out our day. 79 is the high today and 72 the low. 77 should be about the current temperature. Tomorrow, more thunderstorms expected and rain overnight. 60 the low and 75 the high on Friday. Should be clearing up by Saturday with partly cloudy conditions. And on Sunday, clear. That's your Nooga Radio 92.7 fast forecast now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hicks and Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Jets, get Jets.
Don't punish your gun by leaving it in a corner. Shoot it, sell it, or just toss it. Okay. Don't toss it. Make money with it. Shooter Supply and Indoor Range, the hottest gun shop in town, finds buyers for your extra firearms. Put cash in your pocket today. Are ARs cluttering your closet? Rugers rusting in your rec room? Shooter's Supply and Indoor Range in Hickson will take your firearm and put it on consignment. To you, that means no money out of your pocket with a small fee when the gun sells. Larry at Shooters has got an online store. He's licensed to ship anywhere. It's as if Shooter Supply were giving your billfold cover fire. Get the biggest number of bucks from the smallest Derringer to the longest Barrett. Maximum price, shortest time. What a great deal. Shooters-range.com. Shooters-range.com. That's shooters-range.com. Check with Larry.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with whom? Another state? Another country? Get a local independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500, 875-2500. GossInsurance.wordpress.com. Goss, representing Auto Owners Insurance, the no problem people. 875-2500. Let Goss Insurance in Chattanooga help you today. GossInsurance.wordpress.com.
Hi, I'm David Crockett, and I'm here with David Tulis, and we're having a little discussion over who's the number one Nooga centrist. If you want to keep up with free market ideas, then read Nooganomics.com. David Tulis, the blogger with the biggest pen.
Hi, this is Chrissy. And this is Summer of Summer Cares. There are too many homeless veterans in Chattanooga. Please help us in our Shoebox for Veterans campaign. You can fill a shoebox with hand warmers, hand sanitizers, hand wipes, cough drops, razors, shaving cream, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, deodorant, snacks, socks, gloves, and even a small blanket.
And make sure you drop your shoeboxes or your shoebox items off at Nooga Radio Studio on Hickson Pike across from Bojangles below Goss Insurance or Alpine Crest Elementary School.
Please join us at the Community Kitchen in Chattanooga on November 10th from 11 to 12:30 and help us distribute these care packages to the homeless veterans of Chattanooga. No veteran should ever go homeless.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Much with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. We're going to talk about week one in the college football season, give you a preview of that. I'm going to give you the more SEC-specific version. We're going to get into the weeds a little bit more here. But before I do that, I want to talk about Art Briles for just a half second longer than anybody really ought to be talking about Art Briles, because the Hamilton Tiger Cats hired Art Briles for about not even a full 24 hours before they released him, before they realized, you know what, it's maybe a really, really bad idea to hire a man who ran an organization, or at least oversaw an organization, that was involved in so much rape that they had to fire him and the chancellor and many other people involved with the university. Okay? I mean, it's terrible what happened with Baylor. The university, not the high school. The University of Baylor. I'm in Art Briles. Not because we lost Art Briles, who is a great football mind, and I will give him that credit, but because of the damage that it did to that school and the fear that people at that campus and on that campus have. It's insane to me. It is absolutely insane. And so when I look at it, I see a team that just somehow thought we can slide under here. We can get a guy on the cheap who is brilliant, if not troubled, and we have him in a position where he doesn't have to deal with any of the problems that he was dealing with before. And I've been on the record of saying Art Briles should be excommunicated from the game of football. He should never coach it again. That's not up to me. I'm just saying that's my opinion. If I could control anything on this planet, if I could control everything on this planet, rather, because I feel like I would control different things. But if I could control everything on this planet, one of the things that I would try and control would be to make sure that Art Briles never coached football again. Art Briles can do whatever job it is that he wants to do in life, but I would prefer it if he just never coached football again. Sports supposed to be about helping people and building people up. And when you let that happen under your watch, that's not what's important to you. What's important to you is winning. And I get that that's everybody, but when we have evidence of how bad it got for you, you don't get to coach again. Just my opinion. on this. But he got a job for like less than 24 hours before he had to be removed because the backlash was so strong. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats are on the record as saying that they worked out Johnny Manziel. And the reason they did not bring Johnny Manziel on board is that Johnny Manziel had too many red flags. Now, I don't understand what that means in the context of what's going on with Art Briles, because, again, Art Briles oversaw a football program where the players of the football team were accused of at least 52 rapes in 4 years. How does that not figure itself into red flag territory? How does that not figure itself into red flag territory? Let me read that for you again. He oversaw a football program where the players were accused of up to 52 rapes in a 4-year span. How does that not fall into red flag territory? And I'll tell you why it doesn't fall into red flag territory. It's because of the thing that we do in sports where there are two different kinds of red flags. We treat them like they're all the same. They're not all the same. There are two kinds of red flags. One kind of red flag is the Johnny Manziel kind of red flag. That's the red flag that, honestly, we like to hold over everybody. Nobody gets to play football if you have Johnny Manziel red flag. What's the Johnny Manziel red flag? When the red flag disrupts your ability to be a good football team or a good football organization, that red flag, everybody's for, right? Like, everybody's about that. If a guy is getting caught doing drugs all the time, that's a red flag. He cost himself a career in football. Right? If a player is constantly getting arrested, can't stay out of trouble, constantly involved in domestic abuse, these are the red flags that just stop a guy from being possibly productive on the field. And thusly, it stops the football team and the football organization from doing what it wants to do, which is ultimately be a good football team and a good football organization. And then you have the other kind of red flag, the Art Briles kind of red flag, where what he did is egregious and what he did is terrible, and what he did should qualify as the most massive red flag in the history of red flags. That flag is more red than the flag of China. That is more red flags than an aircraft carrier. Don't want it, don't need it. That's what it should qualify as. But this team thought, well, we're in Canada and we're not a college team. We should be able to get away with having Art Briles coach us because he doesn't have the kind of red flag that stops us from being a good football team or a good football organization. And once the backlash came in, the backlash affected their ability to be a good football organization, and they backed out. Then and only then did they back out, because then they perceived the red flag that they originally thought that they had as a different kind of red flag, right? The Art Briles red flag initially was, okay, this guy's got a bad rap, a bad history, seems like generally just a bad dude, but we don't have him in a position to do any of those things that he was previously doing, so he doesn't affect our ability to be an organization or a football team. Right? Like, that's what that is. And this is why I know that the Colin Kaepernick issue is not just about playing ability. It's about race. Because red flags don't just apply to stuff you do wrong. Red flags do not just apply to things that you do badly. Red flags just apply to, can we be a good football team and can we be a good football organization? And while Colin Kaepernick's red flags don't have anything to do with the football field, it does have everything to do with the organization. That all of these teams are afraid of the backlash that their fans are going to give them for signing this guy, right? Even if the guy can help them win. And if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars or you're the Minnesota Vikings and you don't have a quarterback, that guy can help you win. Right? Like if you were the Dolphins before Jay Cutler, that guy could have helped you win. That's just a plain fact. But he has a red flag, the kind of red flag that you don't like having as a football organization on the financial end. It does. It does. I mean, that's just straight up exactly what it is. The red flag for Kaepernick, you are reading as the same kind of red flag for Johnny Manziel. And if that doesn't sadden you on some level, I don't know what does. I don't know how else I could reach you on that. I'm not entirely certain how it is I can reach you on that. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So I'm looking at Johnny Manziel and I'm looking at Art Browse and I'm like, those two guys were in different spots. That's the reason why you can have as many blind spots in football as you do. This is the reason why people who are rapists, and this is the reason why people who have actually killed people have found themselves on football teams. Because what they have done, they're not under a big enough spotlight to be a red flag that affects you as a football organization. Right? For instance, Dante Stallworth, who, by the way, has apologized many times for what he did. As a drunk driver, hit and killed a pedestrian and still played football on 2 more teams in the league. As a drunk driver, he hit and killed a pedestrian. That's got to be one of the more egregious things that anybody can do. An innocent person got killed because he got drunk and got behind the wheel of a car. That ought to be that ought to keep you off of any team. There should be a strong backlash. There should be mothers against drunk driving rioting outside the building. But no. Why? Because Dante Stallworth is not a star. Dante Stallworth is simply a good football player. And because Dante Stallworth apologized a lot, right? This is not a pattern of behavior for Dante Stallworth, right? Like, he hasn't done it again so far as anybody knows. So it's not going to affect his ability to be on the football field. And Dante Stallworth, as I mentioned, not a star. So it doesn't affect the organization. Like, some people are simply not famous enough to warrant red flags. But if you really wanted to be fair about this stuff, where were you when Dante Stallworth found work in the NFL and then found work in the NFL again after hitting an innocent civilian? Where were you? Right? Michael Vick. And again, he went to prison. He did his time. I'm not suggesting that Michael Vick should not have been in the league. And certainly there were people who were upset about Michael Vick getting a second chance in the league. But Michael Vick killed dogs. And didn't just kill them. Like, tortured them, man. Dogs that lost in dogfighting were electrocuted to death. Again, where were you? There were some people who were upset about it, but let's be honest, the backlash that Kaepernick is receiving exceeds that. When you had in the ballpark of some odd 50 some odd dogs just being electrocuted, where were you? Where were you when that was a problem? Right? And how easy was it to forgive Michael Vick once he stepped on the football field and started playing well? I mean, there are 2 kinds of red flags. There's the red flag that is a red flag of your character. And as much as football teams want to care about or say they care about all kinds of red flags, they do not care about all kinds of red flags. All red flags are not created equally. Some red flags just tell you that guy's not a good person. Another red flag tells you we are going to lose games or we are going to lose money. And that's the red flag that they care about. And that's the only one that they care about. Right? Like, Tim Tebow had a red flag. Tim Tebow's red flag was that he just had a bizarrely passionate fan base that followed him everywhere that he went. Tim Tebow didn't do anything wrong. But people like teams did not like that you would sign Tim Tebow onto your football team, and then you just had a group of crazy wackos demanding that you start Tim Tebow the moment he was on your team. Doesn't matter if he's not the best quarterback on your roster. Doesn't matter if we're not certain if he's got a future in the NFL. You sign Tim Tebow on your team, and Tebow mania has begun in your city. Right? So Tim Tebow couldn't overcome that and the fact that he's not a great thrower of the football. He just couldn't overcome both of those things. But the red flag that followed Tim Tebow, what did he do wrong? Like, people want to act that Tim Tebow was given a hard time because he was a Christian. Tim Tebow was not given a hard time because he was a Christian. Tim Tebow was given a hard time because there was a group of people who would follow him from team to team and demand that you play Tim Tebow in a way that was off-putting to the general fan base. And it was hurting the bottom line. That kind of red flag cannot be stood for. But what did Tim Tebow actually do wrong? Nothing. What did Kaepernick actually do wrong? Like, nothing. But he got labeled with a red flag, and it's the same kind of red flag that you give to a guy like Johnny Manziel, who cannot seem to stop doing drugs and cannot seem to get his act together. Like, like, the guy doesn't show up to practice. He goes off to weekends in Vegas during the preseason. I mean, look, that kind of behavior, that ought to be a red flag that keeps a guy off a football team. Kneeling during an anthem, having a crazy fan base, that ought not to keep you out of anything. Teams don't mind lumping all of those people together. It's about how many games can we win, how many tickets can we sell. If you affect our ability to do that, you're a liability. That's the red flag that teams care about. So that's the reason why Art Briles, who oversaw a school where his players were involved with 52 rapes in not even half a year of time, 4 years, that's how Art Briles could almost get signed to a football team. Even though that doesn't seem like a red flag to the team that signed him. And we have these kinds of oversights all the time in sports, where we simply have a blind spot between the kind of red flag that says that guy is bad and I really just don't want him anywhere near me, and that guy can win us football games, so we'll let him in. It creates that blind spot because we perceive all these red flags to be the same red flag, and they are in fact not. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So I'm going to go through week one, the college football season. I'm very excited. It's football Christmas. It's college football Christmas anyway. And then we get NFL Christmas next week. It's great. This is the best time of the year for sports, I think. I say that every year around March Madness and every year around this time of year. I'm not entirely certain which one I actually believe is the best time of year in sports, but I'm just going to say this one because we're here now. Right? I'm just going to go down the schedule. The sked. No, I'm not saying that one again. We're going to go down the schedule and figure out here which games are actually worth your time watching as an SEC fan specifically, right? Because I did the top 25 before, and what we discovered in the top 25 is there's a bunch of games not at all worth watching. At all. Just as a general college football fan. Bunch of games not worth watching. And on the SEC level, I'm afraid to say it's not very different, at least not for week one. None of these games get absolutely fascinating for anybody, top 25 SEC or otherwise, until week 2 of the college football season when people start really getting tested here. But I'm actually going to start from the bottom alphabetically and work my way up here. Vanderbilt plays Middle Tennessee tomorrow. And that is in no way fascinating. I imagine Vanderbilt beats Middle Tennessee pretty badly. But might be interested. Maybe you have a son or daughter at Vandy or Middle Tennessee. Other than that, everybody else, you don't really have to watch this one. Texas A&M and UCLA. Interesting because Kevin Sumlin is notably on the hot seat, right? Like we talk about who's on the hot seat and who's not on the hot seat. National pundits talk about this all the time. I find that when national pundits talk about the SEC, it doesn't do anything but make me mad because they don't know what they're talking about. They talk about Butch Jones as though he's on the hot seat, but he's not. He could be by the end of the season, but he's not right now. Talk about Kirby Smart like he's on the hot seat. He's not on the hot seat either. Again, another guy that maybe could be by the end of the season, but isn't currently. Someone said that Jim McElwain was on the hot seat, and I wanted to punch him in the face. I think it might have been Jason McIntyre of Fox Sports. Because, like, dude, how wrong could you possibly be? But Texas A&M, interesting because Kevin Sumlin, we can all agree he's on the hot seat. Texas A&M and UCLA. UCLA, who's supposed to be very, very good, and Texas A&M, who I imagine when they scheduled this game was also supposed to be very, very good. And this might be a lopsided affair in favor of UCLA as the Kevin Sumlin retirement tour essentially begins here. Unless he pulls out some kind of miracle, which I would love to see just to change things up, change up the storylines and the narratives here. I'm a big fan of chaos in sports. South Carolina versus NC State. I don't know what to tell you about this game. I don't, because I'm not interested, right? I am very vaguely interested in Jake Bentley. I want to see how he progresses as a player, but they play Missouri week 2, and I'd rather watch that one. I'd rather check in on South Carolina the week after. I don't know what to tell you about South Carolina. Missouri playing Missouri State. Again, not interesting. It's just not interesting, okay? Like, Kyle Shermer's a good quarterback. You want to see what the Missouri offense is capable of doing. Year 2 with this coaching staff. I mean, go ahead. But I'm telling you, just as a general SEC fan, I'm not interested in that particular matchup. And you're not going to believe this, but the next one's not interesting either, which is Mississippi State versus Charleston Southern in Starkville. It's just another one of those games. It's very, very uninteresting. I do think it's a little bit disrespectful that Mississippi State's out of the top 25, though. I think they just didn't want to give it to too many SEC schools. But, like, we all believe in the Fitzgerald kid, right? Like, he's going to be good. And Mississippi State hasn't done anything but turn 2- and 3-star talents into guys that you actually want to watch on Saturdays. So I'm not entirely certain why the hate for Mississippi or for Miss State in the eyes of the national media, in the eyes of the coaches in general. I don't know. I think Miss State is a misrepresented top 25 team. I don't know who I'd bump out for the top 25 to get them in. Probably BYU or somebody, but like you just gotta get them in there because I think they're good enough. Ole Miss versus South Alabama. Woo, snooze fest. Woo, snooze fest. I'm telling you, this might be the most uneventful week 1 in college football history. Maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic with that, but like, look at the 4 of these matchups in a row and tell me if any of these things are interesting to you. South Carolina, NC State, Missouri, Missouri State, Mississippi State, Charleston Southern, or Ole Miss, South Alabama. Do all of those games not seem like snooze fest in some variety? Right? Like, at least there's a little bit of a draw with Vandy and Middle Tennessee that you've got both of those schools. They're both Tennessee-based schools playing each other. It's not a rivalry, really, but you've just got the in-state thing going on, which is always cool. None of this other stuff can I sign off on, right? Like, Missouri and Missouri State also has the in-state thing going on, but Missouri is a far less interesting state. I just don't see it. Let's go to the next one here. The next one. LSU versus BYU in Houston. Might be interesting. BYU is always a solid school. Like, I'd hate to root for a school like BYU. Every year you can describe BYU as solid. You can describe their prospects as decent, but they're never going anywhere. And that's been true for the last 10 years. You could describe BYU as being solid. So LSU gets a nice test. Number 13 ranked LSU gets a nice test against BYU, who is solid. Might be vaguely interesting. Kentucky versus Southern Miss. Not at all interesting. And I shouldn't have to tell you why. Though if you're one of those people that chose Kentucky to be an SEC East dark horse, then you might want to check in on your investment. So maybe that's the reason why you would check in on that. Georgia versus Appalachian State, second year of Kirby Smart, second year of Jacob Eason. They need to make the leap. They need to make the leap fast, but I can't imagine that Appalachian State has any answers for Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, who are still somehow playing college football despite being very old men. I don't know what Appalachian State's supposed to do there. Georgia really ought to win this game and win the game handily, but I picked Georgia to win the SEC East, so I know I will pay attention to that game because I need to check in on my investment. Florida versus Michigan, the second most interesting game going on in all of these games. Florida versus Michigan, but Florida suspended Jordan Scarlett, their running back, and Antonio Callaway, their wide receiver. Those are 2 of the best players on their offense. Freshman Felipe Franks. I don't know what to expect out of this game, except to say that I expect Michigan to win it. How close it actually is will determine how interesting the game actually is, but there is enough drama there, and Jim McElwain and playing footsie enough through the media that I actually want to see this showdown. Auburn versus Georgia Southern is also a snooze fest. We don't need to discuss why again, but if you want to see Jarrett Stidham, that's a fun time to stop in. Arkansas, Florida A&M, snooze fest. Alabama versus Florida State is the marquee game of the weekend. because that's the actual only good game on the docket, right? Like DeAndre Francois versus the Alabama defense, Jalen Hurts. You want to see how far he can go. Can Nick Saban really replace Lane Kiffin? Can this offense really open up still without that guy as the OC? There's a lot of questions for Alabama, and enough questions that there's some doubt here. I don't think that you can just guarantee and write Alabama in for the victory. I think this might be one of the tougher games on the early part of Alabama's schedule. So, yeah, they got their tough stuff out of the way early. I'm interested in that one. And, of course, Tennessee versus Georgia Tech, which promises to be vaguely interesting, but I think we can pencil in Tennessee for the victory. If Tennessee does not win this game, then expect that to be the show on Monday. Right? I'm working Labor Day for you because I can't wait till Tuesday to talk about college football. I'm working Labor Day for you all. Expect that to be the story. If somehow Tennessee finds a way to lose this game, I just don't expect them to, and I don't see how it is that they do, having an entire season to prepare for Georgia Tech, right? Georgia Tech gives you that weird triple option that it's tough for people to defend, but that's like a halfway through the season on a short week tough to defend. Generally speaking, it shouldn't be. Clutch with Keon Rhodes on AM 1240 and 92.7. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you all on Monday.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You've been in a wreck.
756-6400.
You've been wrongfully fired.
756-6400.
A turkey is suing you out of the blue.
756-6400.
Confused about a business startup?
756-6400.
That's the number for you. 756-6400. Right here, right now, Chattanooga. Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. Get biz advice now. Representation to fight for your right. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Don't sit on your rights. You've got remedies. Turn your tragedy into cash. You've got the solution from estate planning all the way to probate. Act now. Top attorneys in Chattanooga are waiting to help you get relief. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Turn your tragedy into